What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the garage. So a few videos ago, you guys saw me install the front lip. This is the GTS front lip. So far we only have the upper section on, and that's mainly because I have a custom way that I want to install this lower splitter section. So let's get into explaining. So like I mentioned, we only have the upper section of the GTS splitter on, and today we're going to be installing the lower section of it that kind of adds a little bit more downforce and is the adjustable section of the splitter. So we have a track day coming up in about 2 weeks. Actually, it's only about a week from now, and we're going to be going to COTA, Circuit of the Americas. It'll be my first time there. I'm going to be, well, I've actually been there once or twice before. I've only done partial sections of the track, so we should be doing, so it'll be our first time kind of getting some full laps in, and we're going to take the car. Everything should be good. We are all set. We have some spare tires over there that we're probably going to take with us, as well as, you know, checking over the car, making sure everything's good. We have a spare set of brake pads in the front. Just completed an oil change, and the car is pretty much prepped and ready to go. But on our last track day, we didn't have time to install the lower section of our GTS splitter. So what I want to do today is get that all figured out, get it onto the car, and work out my custom solution to have the lower section fully adjustable from the bottom of the car without removing the bumper, and hopefully without having to jack up the car too far. That being said, let me get into it and I'll kind of show you what I mean. I'll show you the bottom of the splitter and what it looks like and what I mean by not having to remove the bumper. So for those of you that don't know, this is an OEM GTS style front lip. This is just the upper section of the front lip, and it actually comes with another splitter underneath. The real OEM one came with an OEM carbon on top and then like a plastic, I don't know if it was plastic or metal on the bottom, but I'll show you guys what that looked like. On the GTSs, they were all painted like an orange color, as they had all the orange detailing with the orange wheels and orange cage and whatnot. But I got this one. This is just an aftermarket one. This is carbon on both sides. So that's the upper section. And here we have the lower section. So you guys can see the splitter is actually quite large, and it has a bunch of adjustable mounting holes that you can put onto the bottom of the splitter so that when you want to, you can slide the lip further in or further out, depending on how much downforce you want on track, or if you need a little bit more clearance on the street, you can slide it further in and have that little bit of added clearance. So this piece is also carbon fiber. I went ahead and PPF'd this, as I have the other piece also PPF'd just to protect from rock chips and whatnot. I was kind of planning on running this on the street, but you know, even this lip actually sticks out pretty far. And as of now, I probably won't be able to even make it out of the driveway with this lip on. However, I did prepare, and I have the bottom of this lip with the little sliders on here, so just in case I have any issues or go off a curb or anything like that, it is protected. And this piece is also PPF'd like I mentioned, but this has just been sitting here, and the reason is the way that this is intended to mount on this aftermarket version is a little bit cumbersome and not quite how I wanted to mount it onto the lip. So they basically just tell you to use these holes. No mounting hardware is provided, and they basically just want you to self-tap these. I think the two holes in the middle actually line up to mounting spots onto the lip, and you can through bolt those with a nut. But otherwise, that's kind of not a great solution, especially for somebody that's tracking. And like I said, I wanted something that was adjustable. That way when I'm on track, if I need a little bit more downforce, I can kind of just pull it out pretty quickly and get it all situated. So what I ended up deciding that I was going to do is, at first I was going to come up with a solution. I bought a whole bunch of nice stainless steel hardware. We were going to through bolt the lower splitter up into the top and have a solution that would be kind of solid, pretty secure, and definitely hold up pretty well. But my issue with that was, in order to reach the backside of the bolts behind the bumper and above the upper section of the lip, I was basically going to have to do it off the car, or the car would have to be pretty well up into the air. Once I realized that just with the upper section, I didn't have much clearance, I realized I was going to have to be doing this before going in and out of the garage, or before going in on and off a trailer. And that really wasn't something I wanted to do, to either take off the bumper or jack up the car every time before I go onto a trailer. So my end solution was to figure out a way to get the lower splitter section mounted onto the lip. That was a pretty quick disconnect. An installation, and might require me to lift a little bit just to get some access clearance underneath the car, but to not have to reach around the backside of the bumper and just be able to access and screw up from the bottom. So what I came up with is a way to put some inserts, some nutserts into this lip. I already have all the holes marked out from when I previously installed. But I'm going to use that, put some plastic nutserts into the bottom side of the carbon fiber. They're stainless nutserts, but they're meant for plastic. So they have the larger mushroom head on the back so that they create a larger surface area. And I'm also gonna use some seam sealer to really secure those to the back side of that carbon. And then I will just be able to thread M6 bolts up with washers, and that will provide me hopefully enough mounting point for this entire splitter to go on. So the benefit of that is I'm just going to be able to reach underneath the car and hopefully just lower the 6 M6 bolts and the splitter will drop right off. That also means that I can hopefully loosen them, slide the splitter in, tighten them back up, slide the splitter out, whatever I needed to do pretty quickly. When I'm on track, I don't want to have to be doing a ton of work. You know, the simpler the better. So this is what we're going with. If you guys saw my previous video, you'll know this is already chassis mounted. It's held up pretty quickly just with 4 bolts, but it's extremely strong. I should be good to go with getting this thrown up and onto the car. So I'm excited to do this, and let's go ahead and get the car up in the air. I'm gonna get this old splitter off, line it up here. I'll probably have to do a little bit of drilling just so that I can get those nutserts in there. I'll show you what it looks like threading those nutserts in. We're gonna seam seal it. I don't know if I'm gonna actually get the splitter on today because I wanna let those cure on there. You know, before I put any tension on them. You know, we're gonna be able to test fit it, kind of see what it looks like on the car, and hopefully get a good idea of, you know, what kind of clearancing we're having, and hopefully my whole plan and solution works before we head to our next track day at Circuit of the Americas next week. Let's get the car up in the air, and we'll get started on this install. Okay, so we got the front end of the car up in the air, and all we're gonna be doing is using a Torx to loosen these bolts underneath. This is what's holding the lip up in place. These are going to the OEM CS or GTS brackets. I've made a post about those before, and the post where I installed this lip kind of shows you what those look like and how they install. And the lip is free. Okay, so here we have it. You guys can see both of the lips. This is the upper section, and then this is the lower splitter section of the lip. And you can see I've actually made some of the holes already. So these are some of the access holes that will line up with the lip up here onto this chassis mounted section. So what we're gonna be doing is installing those nutserts like I said. So all we're gonna do is get this placed, let's see if I can do this one-handed, onto the lip. Like I said, we already have the holes lined up. So I just wanna make sure, you can see this hole's lined up, this hole is lined up, this hole here, 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 and here. So we're just gonna be installing the nutserts into those. I might have to make some of the tops a little bit bigger just to have access to use the seam sealer on the bottom side. But basically the goal is that on the bottom of this side, we will end up with just a few nutserts and clean threaded access points that we can then use some bolts and some washers on the back side of this lip, and it will be a nice, simple, quick installation. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna go check the nutsert size. We'll get to drilling, get these all set up, and get along with the process. Okay, so we got the lower portion all drilled. And one thing that I actually want to point out is that this center hole here, a little bit further inward on this side and the same on this side, it actually lines up with this hole right here on the splitter and this one right here. These are actually the exact same holes that are used on the OEM GTS splitters or the connections. So those are this inner connection here on the splitters on the bottom side connection. So I did end up actually making those bigger. I probably didn't need to. I'm gonna hope that those bolts that I have over there reach. If not, I'm just gonna go ahead and not use those, and I'll use these centers and the outers. I think that'll be plenty of connection, but regardless, I'm gonna be able to use those. That actually makes me a little bit more confident. That way, if I can use those holes, I am not just relying on the strength of my nutserts and the strength of the bottom side of this carbon to hold all the weight that that splitter will be holding from downforce. So that's actually a good thing, something I didn't quite realize. I did have to drill these holes on there when I was making it. So only one of them was already readily here. So that's something that I'm a little bit happy with overall on this whole installation. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these nutserts. As you can see, they're just going to fit like this right up here into the backside. and they go all the way through, but obviously they won't afterwards once they're all, you know, crimped in. So I'm gonna place those, like I said, only in these outers and the centers, because this middle section is already being used. So, and if you guys noticed, these are not opened yet. This is just still PPF. So I just need to trim around the edge, but it doesn't need to look pretty. It doesn't need to look good. It's covered and it's inside the bumper anyways. So it'll never be seen. The only part that ever gets seen is like the most forward 3 inches or so on this lip. So like I mentioned, doesn't really need to be perfect or exact, but let's go ahead and get this all, you know, bundled up. We're gonna go ahead and get these nuts thrown in, see if we can't figure out a cool mounting solution. So let's get to it. Okay, so here you guys can see I have these metal nutserts. They are all installed, and they feel pretty tight to me already, actually. I'm kind of debating whether or not I want to use the seam sealer on the other side, but like I mentioned, these are actually specifically meant for like plastic or thinner materials, not metal. So these are the nutserts that I used, and if you can tell, they kind of have a larger surface area that they flower out onto, and so it gives quite a large contact patch. If you guys saw me installing those, you saw I had to tighten them, crimp them down a little bit further, tighten them, crimp them down a little bit further. But I don't know if you can tell, but they're like way flowered out inside there. So, you know, I'm hoping that they give, honestly, a lot of hold onto this bottom side of the splitter. I'm really happy that I think those bolts are gonna work. I just have to make sure they're long enough. If not, I'm just gonna go ahead and get longer ones that are the same thread pitch. But otherwise, this is a perfect solution. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm actually just going to go ahead and cut these holes out on the splitter, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and mount the 2 of them together here as they sit, just to make sure that all the holes line up. I'm guessing that's probably something I should have done before I put the nutserts in, but like I said, I'd already kind of tapped the holes previously when I installed the upper section, so we should be good. I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of clean everything up and make sure it looks good, and then we can get to throwing it back on the car and kind of see how it looks. Well, there you guys go. It's actually all secured. I don't have it like, you know, set evenly or anything right now. You know, that's probably something I'm gonna do after, but actually if I'm looking at it, it's already pretty even. I only have the 4 bolts in right now, and if I'm being honest, it's pretty well stuck on there. So I'm not even sure if I'm going to need these other holes, and maybe I'll just stick with the 4. You know, let's see if we can't get the camera propped up here for a second. So I'm gonna turn this over. It is a little bit of a heavy piece now, but I didn't even torque these down. I don't want to go too tight just because I know they're nutserts, but I mean, if I'm being honest, they're pretty well in there. I do have some washers on the back side here. I may opt for getting some bigger ones. These actually don't have the best clearance. I can tighten this one down a little bit. They don't have the best overlap. So this will probably be something that in the future I only hand tighten, just so that I don't run the risk of stripping these. This actually turned out really well. I do think that I want to have a little bit of a larger washer here, so I might have to figure something out. The last set of washers that I got were actually too big and they wouldn't fit into these little slots here. So as you can see, this washer is really not that large, but the last set of washers, M6 washers that I got, were too large and they wouldn't seat into this little divot. So I might have to figure something out regarding that matter, but I'm actually really happy with how this is coming out so far. So what I'm gonna end up doing, I'm gonna go ahead and get the lip back on the upper section, and then I'm just going to mount it as it kind of sits like you guys see it right now. And I'm gonna throw this back onto the car, and we'll get the bottom section buttoned up and just kind of give us a little idea of what it looks like. Now, like I mentioned, it's not going to be staying on the car while I'm daily driving. It will probably only be a track thing. Something that when I get to the track, I'm gonna jack up the side of the car and lay down there and throw it on real quick. And that'll kind of be something I do before my first sessions to get the downforce, you know, a little bit greater on the car. But let's go ahead and get it thrown back onto the car, and let's see how it fits. Okay, so we got it all mounted up, and honestly, this is looking super, super cool. So this is the most aggressive setting that I have it set to right now. And the bolts are loose, so you can see this still flexes. And if I just kind of press, it's a little bit difficult with one hand, but I can just slide the whole splitter back in to a less aggressive state like this, and now it's not as aggressive and it doesn't stick out as far. So I just need to tighten up the bottom, and it's fully adjustable. So I have pretty good confidence that this is plenty strong. I need to check. I'm not sure. See if I can feel underneath here. Oh yeah, this is not as far back on this one. That one's not connected. Oh, it can go further back as well. So let me see if I can't adjust that right here. Well, I feel like it's getting caught up on something. Oh, there it is. Now it's literally pressed all the way in, and you can see there's virtually no lip sticking out. So, you know, honestly, if I could run it like this on the street and not rub or, you know, destroy it coming out of my bumper, I might. But this is super cool. This is sick. I'm loving this solution. So I'm probably gonna pull it back out and just set it on the ground just to kind of see what it looks like. Maybe get some photos, but otherwise I'm super happy with this. I might pull it out into the driveway just to see. I don't know, it's kind of raining out right now, so don't want to get the car all messy. But this came out super well. I'm super happy. Again, the lip is super strong, so we're connected to that, and I don't really have any worries about, you know, how this the strength of that lip is looking. Let's go ahead and get this thrown down. I'm super happy with the way this is coming out. So let's get it down on the ground, and I'm gonna pull it back out, tighten it up, just kind of get it into a position I think might be good on track. Maybe an even position, maybe not all the way out, but just something that I think looks good, and we'll see how it looks. Well, here you guys go. Got it outside. I think it looks pretty good. You know, I'm surprised. I don't think it scraped coming out of my garage, but it is like seriously low. Like we're about 3, maybe 4 fingers, mostly like 3 fingers down from the ground, which is you know, like I can just barely get my foot underneath there. So it's unbelievably low. I seriously doubt I would have any chance of making it out of my driveway. Best case scenario, it does. Regardless, it's still not going to make it up onto the trailer. So I'm still glad that I went with this quick release and disconnect system. So I think it looks super cool. Definitely looks really aggressive. This is the most aggressive setting I have it on right now, so it won't ever be much more than this. Also, I did end up figuring out that the 2 center bolts, or actually not the center bolts, but the 2 bolts that go straight to the chassis, those are just M6. So I have longer bolts, and those will fit just fine. But so what we're gonna do the next time we put it back on, because we're gonna pull it in and take it back off, but the next time we put it on, we're just going to, you know, use these, take these ones out, the hardware that you saw, and then go ahead and throw up those longer bolts. So we're through bolted all the way from the bottom splitter through the middle one and up into the chassis mount. So otherwise, I think car's doing pretty good. It looks pretty cool. I did end up finding some bigger washers that I had. For anybody that knows, man, finding good hardware is just a pain in the butt, especially when you try and do something, you know, like this that's kind of custom or a little bit unique. It's just a pain in the butt. So super happy with how this came out. Well, there you have it, guys. The splitter is installed. We're gonna go ahead and take it back off before we, you know, keep driving the car or whatnot. Like I said, it's probably not gonna make it out of the drive. So, you know, it's not a bad thing to just run it without, and it'll be something that I kind of install pretty quickly before I get to the track. So I'm super happy with the way that everything came out. It is a quick install. It's gonna be a quick disconnect. And I think it'll be a really good solution for something on track. Like I mentioned, I do have the 2 M6 bolts, These are M6 by 40s, so 40 millimeter long. And I mentioned that I found some larger washers. So going to be able to use these for those 2 brackets that mount up into the chassis, and it'll replace the 2 bolts that are holding up the center section right now. But overall, I think that's going to be a perfect solution, and that way I can run it and it's fully chassis mounted. So, you know, I've kind of been looking around at chassis mount options, and unfortunately, you have this, you have the CS lip that I ran before that I kind of destroyed, and then you have the GT4 lip. And if you're not doing any of those, then you either need to do the Bemmer World GT More kit, which is the GT4, just a lot larger. And unfortunately, those are almost all impossible to daily drive on the street with. And I know I don't really drive on the street much with mine, but I do it sometimes. And, you know, like I said, I don't think I'd make it out of the driveway with any of those on my car. So I'm kind of left with, you know, this splitter setup. But, you know, I'm happy with it for now. Obviously, it was put onto the M4 GTS for a reason. Maybe we need some rear aero to match, but that'll be coming up, you know, in its own due time. But that was the last thing I wanted to get on the car, or get the car prepped before headed off to COTA next week. So in exactly 8 days, we will be heading out to the track and going out there with Chin again, just to go have a good weekend and set some lap times. So we've got a bunch of track time coming up. I'm actually about to register for another event later on today. This will be my first time attack event, and this is going to be at MSR Crescent. So another new track that we're going to go to. So super stoked for all the driving events that we've got going on. Car's doing well. We just performed all the maintenance on it that we needed to. Oil change, cleaned up the coilovers. We got the brakes all done, and we have our spare pads all ready before our next track day. We got spare tires sitting over here, ready to go for when we need them. Those are still the Apexes. Those still have good tires on them. So we're super set, and we're going to be loading up on the trailer, you know, here in a few days and getting the car out to Circuit of the Americas. If you have any questions on how I got this whole lip splitter set up, or where I got the lip from, or the hardware needed, or any of that, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this install video today. I know this is a little bit of a DIY, and I kind of enjoy doing stuff like this, especially when it goes well. When it doesn't, it's a little bit of a pain. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.